Burnout doesn't always arrive like a storm crashing down on your life. It doesn't always scream, "You're at your limit." Instead, it creeps in quietly, like a shadow that follows you everywhere, whispering in ways that are easy to ignore. At first, it's subtle: an extra yawn during the morning meeting, a moment of zoning out at the dinner table, a small sigh when you realize the day is just beginning. But those whispers add up, and before long, they become a weight that crushes your spirit. Imagine a small crack in the foundation of a house. Harmless at first, barely noticeable. But over time, that crack spreads, weakening the entire structure until the walls begin to shift and the ceiling threatens to collapse. Burnout is exactly like that. What feels like a minor inconvenience today, just a little tiredness, just a little stress, becomes a deep fracture that reshapes how you think, feel, and live. The danger is that society often rewards the very behaviors that fuel burnout. We clap for those who sacrifice sleep, admire those who push through exhaustion, and glorify the endless hustle. Productivity becomes the mask we wear, but behind it, our bodies and minds are quietly begging for relief. The truth is, burnout doesn't only take your energy, it steals your identity. The person you were, the one full of passion, creativity, and joy, slowly fades, replaced by someone who feels like a hollow shell just going through the motions. And the most terrifying part, many people don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. You wake up one day and realize you're living someone else's life, one dictated by obligations, pressures, and demands that never stop. You no longer recognize the person staring back at you in the mirror. Burnout is not just exhaustion. It's emptiness disguised as hard work. It's the silent attack no one else sees. The secret enemy that makes you question your worth, your strength, and sometimes even your future. But here's the truth you need to hear: the fact that you're here, listening, searching, means you haven't lost the fight. You're still aware enough to catch the whispers before they turn into screams. And that awareness can be the first step back to reclaiming your life. Maybe you've felt it already: the mornings when you open your eyes after a full night's sleep but feel like you never rested at all. The evenings when you're surrounded by people yet feel completely disconnected. Or the small, nagging thought that no matter what you do, it's never enough. These are not random moments. These are signs, quiet but urgent, that your body and mind are crying out for change. Burnout wants to convince you that it's normal to live this way, that life is just endless fatigue, silent frustration, and lost passion. But deep down, you know that's not true. Life wasn't meant to be a slow erosion of your energy until there's nothing left. Life was meant to be lived fully, not survived barely. Before we continue, if this message is striking a chord with you, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more powerful insights like this straight to you, and it might just be the step you need to remind yourself you're not alone in this journey. So now, I want to ask you something deeply personal. Have you ever felt that creeping sense of emptiness, even when everything on the outside looks fine? That invisible battle between who you are and what the world demands of you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might be the one that inspires someone else to take their first step toward transformation. Burnout rarely announces itself with a dramatic collapse. Instead, it steals from you little by little, like a thief slipping into your home each night and taking something small, so small you barely notice. One day, it's just a little fatigue. The next, it's a lack of focus. Soon, the things that once brought you joy feel heavy, like dragging weights across your chest. This is the silent drain of energy, the kind that creeps in without alarms or warning bells. You might think, "I'm just tired. I need a good night's sleep." But here's the truth: real burnout fatigue doesn't fade after 8 hours in bed. It clings to you, like a fog that refuses to lift no matter how many times the sun rises. You wake up, but you don't feel alive. You go through your day, but you don't feel present. And when the night comes, you collapse into bed, only to repeat the same empty cycle again. Think about the subtle changes you've ignored. That passion project you once couldn't wait to work on now feels like a burden. Conversations that once energized you now leave you drained. Even small decisions: what to eat, what to wear, how to respond, feel exhausting, as if your brain is carrying a weight 10 times heavier than before. Burnout drains you, not just of energy but of your very capacity to experience life fully. It's not just in your body, your spirit. Burnout whispers lies that you begin to believe: you're lazy, you're weak, you're failing. These lies take root, and suddenly the fatigue doesn't feel external anymore, it feels like who you are. You mistake exhaustion for identity. That's the most dangerous part. When you no longer separate yourself from the exhaustion, you begin to think this emptiness is permanent, that life will always feel this way, and the world doesn't make it easier. Society praises the overworked. We admire those who grind, who never stop, who live on caffeine and deadlines, but beneath the applause, there's silence filled with people who can't admit they're running on fumes. You might even be one of them, wearing the mask of strength while quietly falling apart inside. The silent drain of energy doesn't just rob your dice, it steals your future. Each day you live in this fog, you move further from the person you were meant to be. Your creativity, your laughter, your clarity, they're not gone, but they're buried under the weight of exhaustion, and the longer you ignore it, the deeper it buries you. But here's something you must hold on to. The drain is not who you are. It's a condition, not your identity. Recognizing the silence is the first act of power. Seeing the thief for what it is gives you the choice to stop it. And maybe that's why you're here, because some part of you knows that this fatigue, this emptiness, isn't the end of your story. It's just a warning signal, a call to pay attention before the collapse. So, let me ask you, have you felt it? That unshakable exhaustion that sleep can't fix, the emptiness that no distraction fills. If you've ever wondered whether burnout has started its silent attack on you, share your truth in the comments. Your words might echo exactly what someone else is too afraid to admit. Burnout isn't only about exhaustion you can feel in your muscles or your bones, it's the invisible heaviness that settles deep inside you, pressing down on your emotions in ways you can't explain. It's waking up and feeling as though a stone has been placed on your chest before the day even begins. You haven't moved, you haven't spoken, but somehow, you're already drained. That's the emotional weight burnout hides behind the curtain of your daily routine. It's not the obvious kind of stress where you're panicked, rushing, and visibly overwhelmed. No, this one is quieter, more subtle. It's when you're sitting in a meeting and suddenly feel like you're on the outside looking in, disconnected from everyone else in the room. It's when you're having dinner with your family but can't find the energy to truly engage in the conversation. You smile, you nod, but inside, you feel hollow. The emotional weight has already pulled you out of the present moment. What makes it dangerous is how easy it is to dismiss. You tell yourself, I'm just tired, tomorrow will be better. But tomorrow comes, and the weight is still there. Over time, you begin to accept it as normal, as if life is supposed to feel this heavy, as if numbness is simply part of adulthood. But deep down, you remember a time when life felt lighter, when laughter was easier, when joy wasn't something you had to schedule, when connection flowed without effort. Burnout tricks you into thinking that person is gone forever. The emotional weight also reshapes your relationships. People might say, you've changed, or you're distant, and maybe you feel guilty, because it's not that you don't care, it's that you have nothing left to give. Your emotional energy is spent before the day even begins, leaving you empty when it matters most. You begin to pull back, not because you want to, but because engaging feels like climbing a mountain with no summit in sight. And here's the cruel irony. On the outside, you might look fine. You're still showing up, still smiling when needed, still checking off boxes. But inside, you're carrying a load no one else can see. That invisibility makes it harder to explain and even harder to ask for help. How do you tell someone, I feel heavy, even when nothing is wrong? How do you justify exhaustion when the world tells you to just push through? This is why burnout is so insidious. It convinces you to stay silent. It whispers that no one will understand, that admitting you feel this way makes you weak. But here's the truth. This emotional weight isn't a reflection of your strength or your worth. It's a signal, a warning. Your mind and heart are telling you that something has gone too far, that you've given too much of yourself for too long, without pause. The weight may be invisible to others, but it's real to you. And the first step to releasing it is acknowledging it, not brushing it aside, not minimizing it, but seeing it for what it is, a sign that something needs to change. That's where the battle begins, not with denial, but with awareness. So let me ask you, have you felt this invisible heaviness, the kind that others can't see but you carry every single day? Drop your experience in the comments, because your story might be the mirror someone else needs to recognize their own hidden weight. Burnout doesn't always begin with chaos, it often begins with silence. That silence shows up the moment your motivation quietly slips away, and you barely notice at first. You wake up, and the spark that once pushed you out of bed feels dim. What used to excite you now feels like a list of chores. The projects, the goals, the dreams that once fueled you, they all start blending into a dull background noise. You're still functioning, still doing what's expected, but deep inside, something essential has gone missing. Think about it. Remember when you used to feel unstoppable? That time when every new challenge looked like an opportunity, when even long hours felt worth it because you could see the progress you were making. That drive didn't disappear overnight. Burnout doesn't steal it in one dramatic blow. Instead, it chips away, slowly and quietly, until you look back and wonder when you last felt genuinely excited about anything. This is where burnout's silent attack feels cruel. On the outside, you look fine. You're still doing your job, still checking boxes, still delivering results. But inside, you know you're running on autopilot. You've stopped dreaming, stopped reaching, stopped believing that what you do matters. And yet, nobody else sees it. They might even praise you for how reliable you are, for how steady you seem. But what they don't see is that each yes you give, each task you complete, is another piece of you slipping further into that silence. And here's the trap. You might even start believing this new version of yourself is permanent. That maybe you've just grown out of ambition, or that passion was a younger version of you, and this flat, detached state is what maturity looks like. But that's not true. This isn't growth, it's depletion. It's the result of giving and giving until your fire burns out, leaving nothing but smoke. When motivation dies, life loses its color. The hobbies you once loved gather dust, the goals you once chased feel irrelevant, and even moments of joy seem muted. You begin to measure your days by how quickly they end, instead of how fully you lived them. That's not who you are, it's who burnout is trying to make you become. The silence of lost motivation is dangerous because it doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't make you collapse or force you to stop. It simply convinces you to settle, to accept less, to exist instead of live. And over time, that acceptance becomes a cage. But here's the truth. That silence is not the end of your story. It's the signal that you need to reclaim it. Because motivation doesn't just vanish, it gets buried. Under obligations, under exhaustion, under the endless demands that leave no room for your own desires. And once you realize that, you can begin the work of unearthing it, piece by piece. So let me ask you, have you noticed that silence creeping into your life? That quiet shift where your passion used to roar but now barely whispers? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your words might give someone else the courage to recognize that their motivation hasn't died, it's only been hidden. Burnout rarely starts with a dramatic breakdown. Instead, it whispers through your body long before your mind is willing to admit something is wrong. The body doesn't lie, it carries the weight of every unspoken stress, every ignored emotion, every late night where you pushed through exhaustion. At first, you tell yourself it's just fatigue, just a passing headache, just a sore back. But these aren't random annoyances, they're messages. Quiet signals that your body is crying for help, begging you to slow down. Think of it like an alarm system. When you ignore your limits, your body activates warnings. Tension in your shoulders, a knot in your stomach, a pounding in your chest that you explain away as just stress. But these subtle cries are easy to dismiss because they don't demand attention yet, and so you push them aside, convincing yourself you're strong enough to keep going. The irony: strength doesn't come from ignoring your body. Real strength is learning to listen to it. Your body is often 2 steps ahead of your mind. Long before you realize you're burning out, your body has already started waving the red flag. Insomnia creeps in even when you're tired. Your appetite shifts. Sometimes you eat too much, other times nothing at all. You catch colds more often, feel drained after the simplest tasks, and even your skin seems to reflect the exhaustion you pretend isn't there. These aren't coincidences. They're your body screaming, "I can't keep doing this." But here's where ego blinds us. Many people take pride in pushing through pain, wearing exhaustion like a badge of honor. You tell yourself, "I can handle it. I don't need rest. I'll stop later." Later never comes. And by the time you realize how loud your body has been shouting, the damage is already deeper than you imagined. The silence of motivation might trick your mind, but the body never stays silent for long. It always finds a way to break through. And the scariest part, burnout hides inside those physical symptoms so well that you begin to think they're just part of life. That's just how adulting feels. That's just aging. That's just the price of success. No, it's not. Those aches, that fatigue, that constant restlessness aren't signs of living well, they're signs of survival mode. Your body is pleading for something different, something better. If you ignore these signs, your body eventually forces you to stop. Whether through illness, breakdown, or sheer collapse, it finds a way to make itself heard. But you don't have to wait for that breaking point. The secret is in noticing the whispers, the tension, the tiredness, the endless fatigue before they become screams. So let me ask you, have you been brushing off your body's warnings, pretending it's just stress or just bad sleep? Have you mistaken your body's cry for weakness when, in reality, it's the strongest signal you'll ever get? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because admitting the body's truth might be the first step to saving someone else from the silence they've been ignoring. Burnout doesn't always disguise itself as exhaustion. Sometimes, it hides behind your obsession with productivity. The mind convinces you that your worth is tied to how much you achieve, how many boxes you check off, how many hours you can outwork everyone else. At first, it feels empowering, like you're winning the game of life, but slowly, that drive turns into a trap, a cage built from deadlines, goals, and the pressure to always be on. You're not just working, you're measuring your existence in output, and that's where burnout tightens its grip. The trap is clever because it feeds your ego. Every late night you push through, every project you finish, every task you complete gives you a small hit of validation. You tell yourself you're unstoppable, stronger than fatigue, built for the grind, and society cheers you on, praising hustle as if it were heroism. But here's the truth nobody wants to admit. The mind that worships productivity at any cost is the same mind that will eventually collapse under the weight of its own expectations. You start to lose balance without even noticing. Rest begins to feel like laziness. A day off feels like failure. Even spending time with loved ones is haunted by the thought of what you should be doing instead. And when your mind is wired to see stillness as weakness, you push harder, chasing an endless finish line that never truly exists. Productivity, once a tool, becomes a prison. The worst part, your mind tricks you into believing you have control. You think you're choosing the grind. You think you're deciding to sacrifice sleep, health, relationships, all in the name of success. But in reality, the trap has already locked you in. Your identity becomes tied to achievement, and without it, you don't even know who you are. That's not freedom, that's slavery, dressed up as ambition. This is where burnout thrives. It feeds on the disconnect between who you are and what you do. When your entire value is defined by output, there's no space left for being human. The mind that once gave you clarity now drives you deeper into exhaustion, whispering that you haven't done enough, that you must keep pushing, that your worth depends on another task, another milestone, another victory. But victories without peace are illusions. Think about it. How many times have you finished something only to feel empty minutes later? That emptiness is the proof of the trap. No achievement, no matter how big, can fill the void left when you abandon yourself for productivity's sake. Burnout thrives in that emptiness, whispering that maybe the next achievement will be the one that finally makes you feel whole. But it never does. So I'll ask you this: are you living for progress, or are you living as proof? Are you chasing productivity because it fuels because you're afraid of what it means to stop? Share your truth in the comments, because someone else might be living the same trap without even realizing it. Burnout doesn't just drain your body, it rewires your emotions until they no longer feel like your own. You start off thinking you're handling it. You tell yourself you're fine, that it's just stress, that you can manage it if you push a little harder. But emotions don't stay buried forever. The pressure builds silently, like steam trapped in a sealed container. And one day, without warning, everything explodes. It's the sudden tears you can't explain, the outburst over something small, the moment you snap at someone you love and feel the guilt crawl in seconds later. You don't recognize yourself, because the exhaustion has stripped away your patience, your balance, your ability to filter. What was once hidden under discipline and control bursts out in ways you never expected. Burnout doesn't ask permission, it simply takes over. The explosion is terrifying because it reveals what you've been trying to hide, even from yourself. The sadness you refused to acknowledge, the anger you swallowed for years, the loneliness you covered up with busyness. Burnout drags it all out into the open, raw and unfiltered, and for many, this is the breaking point, the moment they realize they are no longer holding it together. Here's the painful irony. The stronger you try to be, the bigger the explosion when it finally happens, because pretending to be unshakable doesn't erase the storm brewing inside. Every "I'm fine" you told others, every time you dismissed your own feelings, every day you pushed through exhaustion added fuel to the emotional bomb. And when it goes off, it's not just you who feels it, the people around you do too. Friends, partners, coworkers, children, they all get caught in the blast of your burnouts. Suddenly, the smallest things trigger massive reactions. A simple question feels like an attack. A minor mistake feels like failure. You feel constantly on edge, as though life itself has become too sharp, too heavy, too loud, and you're left wondering how you got here. How did the version of you who was once calm, steady, and resilient become so fragile, so explosive? This is burnout's cruelest trick, convincing you that you can control it until it controls you. By the time the explosion happens, you realize it wasn't about weakness, it was about neglect. Neglecting your rest, neglecting your needs, neglecting your emotions until they demanded to be seen in the most destructive way possible. And when that explosion comes, you're faced with a choice. Do you keep ignoring the warning signs, pretending it was just a bad day? Or do you finally admit that burnout is more than tiredness, it's a signal that your soul is crying out for change? So let me ask you, have you ever had that moment where your emotions erupted out of nowhere, leaving you shocked at yourself? If you felt that hidden storm explode, share your story in the comments. Because the more we bring these silent battles into the open, the less power burnout has over us. Burnout doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. And those whispers are the most dangerous because they are so easy to dismiss. It's the heavy sigh at the end of the day you call just being tired. It's the way you stare at your work and feel nothing, not excitement, not pride, not even frustration, just emptiness. It's the creeping numbness that slips into your life and convinces you that this flat, muted version of existence is normal. That's the silent cry for change. Burnout doesn't just steal your energy, it steals your passion, your spark, your sense of meaning. You begin to function like a machine, producing, surviving, but no longer truly living. The silent cry hides behind the routines you repeat without thought, behind the fake smile you wear because people expect it, behind the automatic "I'm fine" you give, even when you feel like you're fading inside. Here's the truth no one wants to admit: silence doesn't mean safety. Silence means suppression. And what you suppress will eventually demand to be heard. Burnout's quietest signs are often the most destructive because they slip under your radar until they've already reshaped your life. Suddenly, you don't recognize yourself anymore. The hobbies you once loved feel like chores. The relationships you valued feel like weights. Even moments of rest no longer restore you. But why do we ignore these cries? Because admitting them feels like weakness. Because society praises productivity more than well-being. Because we've been taught to wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. So you keep pushing, thinking strength means silence. Yet, in reality, strength is the courage to listen, to stop, to question, to acknowledge that something isn't right. The silent cry for change is your inner self begging you to realign your life before the damage becomes permanent. It's a reminder that burnout is not about being broken, it's about being human. Humans are not machines. We are not meant to run endlessly without pause, without care, without meaning. Ignoring that cry is like ignoring the faint cracks in a dam. It may hold for now, but eventually the weight will break it wide open. And when it does, the flood will sweep away far more than just your energy. It will take your joy, your confidence, and your sense of purpose with it. The question is, will you wait until it breaks, or will you listen to the quiet voice now? Will you recognize the whispers of burnout as the call to change they truly are? So I'll leave you with this. Have you ever felt that silent critical moments where you knew something inside was calling for change, but you pushed it down? What did that feel like for you? Share your story in the comments, because someone else might find the courage to listen to their own cry by reading yours. Burnout wants you to believe it has the final word. It thrives on silence, on convincing you that your exhaustion is just how life is now, that your emptiness is permanent, and that your spark will never return. But let me tell you this: burnout does not get the last word. You do. Every moment you've dragged yourself out of bed when you felt like collapsing. Every time you smiled when your soul was aching. Every day you kept going, even when your heart was heavy. Those are not signs of weakness. They are signs of resilience. Proof that somewhere deep inside, there's still a fire that burnout has not been able to extinguish. Faith begins where exhaustion ends. When you reach that breaking point where you whisper, "I can't anymore," that's where the possibility of renewal begins. Because burnout is not just a signal of what's gone wrong, it's also a signal of what needs to be reborn. It's your soul's way of telling you, this path is no longer for you. It's time to realign. It's time to rebuild. You are not broken. You are not finished. You are being reshaped. Think of burnout as the fire that refines gold. Yes, it burns. Yes, it strips away what cannot last. But what remains is stronger, purer, unshakable. The pain you feel is not the end, it is the beginning of transformation. Imagine this: the same energy you once poured into surviving, into pretending, into pushing through, that energy, once freed from burnout's chains, will become the fuel for your renewal. One day, you will wake up and realize the exhaustion no longer defines you. One day, you will rediscover joy in the smallest of moments, the sunlight on your face, the laughter of someone you love, the quiet peace of simply being present. One day, you will see that burnout didn't destroy you, it redirected you. Hold on to faith. Hold on to the truth that the emptiness you feel now is not a void, but space being cleared for something new. Burnout is not your enemy. It's your wake-up call. It's the moment your life whispers, "This is not where your story ends. This is where it changes." And when you feel like giving up, remember this: your life has meaning beyond productivity. Your worth is not measured by your output. You are valuable simply because you exist, because you breathe, because you are here. And as long as you are here, there is hope. So take a deep breath, lift your head, believe that even in the darkest night, dawn is already on its way. The battle against burnout is not just about surviving, it's about reclaiming the life you were meant to live. And you, right now, have the power to take that first step. If this message touched something inside you, if you felt even a spark of recognition, then don't walk this journey alone. Let this space be a place where you find strength, connection, and hope. Before you leave, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because this conversation is just beginning. Together, we are going to keep uncovering the hidden truths about burnout and discovering the steps that lead not only to recovery, but to transformation. And don't miss the next video. We'll dive even deeper into the secrets burnout doesn't want you to know. Trust me, it's a message you can't afford to miss. Because burnout tried to break you, but your story isn't over. Your story is.